biographer of Thomas Jefferson and Andrew Jackson. He has a new workout. It's called The Battle for Our Better Angels. The Soul of America is the primary title. He will be here in St. Louis at the St. Louis County Library on June 25th. Jon, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. I hate to correct my host. I think it's May 25th.
It says
I say
June.
that because I love St. Louis. You are the Bethlehem of the Bush family through the Walker line.
I stand dutifully.
And the home of my good.
I stand dutifully corrected.
My good friend Jack Danforth.
Yeah, very good. I stand corrected. We'll make it May 25th instead of June, because otherwise it would be kind of lonely there on the 25th of June. So, Soul of America, I like the concept behind the book. You have basically walked us through the history of this country, starting on the inside cover of the book, a meeting with Abraham Lincoln and various generals, and you've hit high points and or low points, if you will, about the soul of America and why these events are so important to the history of this country.
Absolutely. My view is that if you support the president right now, you believe that the country is in peril. Otherwise, you would not have voted for this wildly unconventional figure who ran saying the country is in grave peril, and if you want to fix it, send me. So a vote for him was an implicit acknowledgement that you believe that as well. And if you oppose the president, which about 55% of the country does, you believe there's never been a more perilous moment for the republic. What I wanted to do was not from a partisan point of view, because God knows we have enough of that, was to look at history. Look at how have we gotten to this point in American history. Have there been periods that have felt divisive, have been contentious, have felt existential? And the answer, when you climb back inside our national story, is that that kind of feeling is almost more the rule than the exception. From the very beginning, the 1790s, John Adams passes the Alien and Sedition Acts, enabling the president to deport immigrants with whom he disagrees. Sound familiar at all?
Yeah.
We go to the era of Andrew Jackson, who's fighting the elites, who's fighting the entrenched interests. The Civil War, the greatest cataclysm in American history, but the most purifying event because it enabled us to begin to move beyond the original sin of slavery. The long Reconstruction. We had a president in Andrew Johnson who believed that the elites were conspiring against him. He opposed the 14th and 15th Amendments. He vetoed bills for civil rights. He was a man without a natural political base. Again, sound familiar. All the way through Joe McCarthy and the backlash against civil rights. When you climb back inside these events, you realize that two things, I think. One is, my God, we are the heirs of a very sturdy and interesting people. I mean, our ancestors fought through horrible obstacles to give us this great gift that we all share. And the second is, it enables us, instead of being nostalgic about that past, as though the world was entirely fine before Donald Trump became president, if you're in that 55%, you realize that that's the only thing we have to learn from.
But you know what? At the same time, Jon Meacham, it intrigues me because, as an example, in the book *The Soul of America*, there's not a photograph, but a painting of then President Roosevelt sitting with Booker T. Washington dining at the White House, which it was a terrible outrage because, good heavens, we have a black man in the White House. It seems though that things moved slower. Just to interrupt quickly, that's not, a black man was not the phrase the Southern newspapers used. I'm sure it wasn't, but the point is that things moved slower, and the word spread slower. You had the newspapers were the primary distribution of information. Now, and I like to call it, the monster needs to be fed. We have 3 monitors in this studio, each one set to a news channel, and word moves so much more quickly, and I can't help but think that that's not necessarily a good thing in our day and age.
It's a very important point. We could spend a week debating it. I think that speed of the spread of information is actually a relative thing. It's the only physical principle I actually know. So don't push me on the metaphor. You're right about, obviously, that newspapers came slower. But let's think about if it's 1902, which was the dinner, Theodore Roosevelt invites Booker T. Washington to the White House. No African American had ever been officially entertained at the White House. Word leaks out. The Southern newspapers go crazy. TR himself says that the ferocity of the reaction showed him how necessary it had been to do. But so that spread through the papers. By the argument you just made, which is a common and respectable one, a widespread one, the outrage should have been somehow more manageable, more proportionate because it was in newspapers. But think about it. If you're sitting in 1902 and you're not used to having a newspaper come every day or every week, that's the information superhighway. That's a new hurdling force because you're not because it's the quicker thing. And then add radio into it, which picks up the pace, add television to it, which picks up the pace, and then you end up with the cable news world in the 80s and 90s, and now where we are with the digital world. I just think we shouldn't blame or try to ascribe our tribal divisions to the spread of information. The spread of information, if we get our hearts and minds in the right place, should be a good thing. It should not exacerbate our tribal tensions. It should enable us to know more about what's going on. And if we are doing things right, we should be using our brains instead of our guts. We should be being more thoughtful instead of more instinctive about what's going on and what we should do.
Well, I think then people should slow down just a tad, pick up a copy of your book, and enjoy it. Jon Meacham, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks so much. Take care of Senator Danforth for me.
Will do. Jon Meacham, The Soul of America, his new book. He will be at the St. Louis County Library on May 25th. Joining us